Welcome to Seymour's World. I'm Seymour Kazimirski. It is such a pleasure to be here today because I have two old friends with me. One is Anne Namba from Anne Namba Designs, and her daughter Roxie, who I have known since she was a very, very little girl because she was friends with our children. I have to tell you something in full disclosure. I am wearing an Anne Namba shirt. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I can tell you that walking to the studio today, a number of people asked me about this shirt, and I have decided on air to ask Anne if I could get a commission for every shirt that is sold, because I think I should be a model. My wife thinks the opposite, but why not, right? If I can do a show like Seymour's World, there's no reason why I can't hold a sign that says Anne Namba Designs. I think that would work out really well. But in any case, it is a great pleasure to welcome both Anne and Roxie to my show. And the reason I wanted to have you both here was because I'm infatuated with Roxie. She has become a young lady of 22 years old, I believe, who I'm so impressed with how mature you are and how you have decided to do something that I think will be just wonderful for you and for your parents and for the world too, which is great. And on your side, I've seen your business grow over many, many years, and I've always felt that Hawaii in general needs to have diversification. And one of the issues we've always had is we can't export pineapple, we can't export sugar cane, we only have tourism. What can we do? You and your business have really done an excellent job of bringing a product to the market, not just for Hawaii, but for the world market. And I'm hoping we're going to be able to see some of your products as we go along during the show. Good. So Anne, first let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us where you came from. Are you from Hawaii originally?
I am second generation. No, yeah.
Third.
Third generation, thank you. Third generation, born and raised here, and but traveled quite a bit when we were young, so got the travel bug in us. Wanted to see the world, and I went to school in New York City, worked there in LA, and then after 8 years I came back here to start my own business.
And when did you start Anne Namba Designs?
I started it in, you're asking me really hard questions because I know when I was born, when my kids were born, and when I graduated high school.
20 years ago or more?
25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Yes.
And what made you get into it? I mean, fashion here in Hawaii is, if I may be so blunt, aloha shirts and muumuus and that kind of stuff. But you have gone to a wonderful, wonderful area of expertise, which is high fashion, or what I consider high fashion.
Well, it pretty much started out as every little girl growing up, loves clothes and loves, dressing up. And so I was sort of that typical girl. I was also the second daughter, so I got only hand-me-downs. My mother hates this story, but it's true. The only way I could get new clothes was to make it. So my grandmother passed away, and she had one of those old-fashioned pump machines with your foot. And so I was so excited, and I went and was fooling around with this thing. I found some blue kettle cloth and yellow rickrack in the drawer. Wow. And I made myself this shorts outfit, and I was so proud. It didn't fit because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just sort of figuring out myself. And at that time, my mother goes, I think I better send you to sewing school. And it just became a passion of mine. And from 12 years of age, I remember every weekend, I used to walk down to the neighborhood dry goods store. And that would be, we didn't have video games, none of that stuff. And I would spend hours just going through the pattern books and the patterns and the fabrics. And I'd spend all weekend sewing. That was like the most fun thing to do.
Really?
Yeah.
That is
so
amazing.
as a 12-year-old kid, that's what I wanted to do. So of course my parents weren't thrilled, when I said I want to be a fashion designer, but they totally supported me and sent me to I think one of the top fashion schools in the nation.
Which is?
Fashion Institute of Technology.
That was in New York?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Of course, it's quite famous. FIT in New York
Yep.
is great.
Yep.
And when you went to FIT, did you do well there? Did you like what you were doing and then decided to come to Hawaii, or was that?
No. I did very well. I was summa cum laude, and I stayed in New York. I was like, when I left here, I was like, I'm so out of the islands. I am off to the Big Apple and big time and everything else. And so I was there. And then after a while, I got like Okay, I can barely, I remember going to happy hour just so I could get free food. And basically, my first job paid $200 a week, which was huge back in those days. You share an apartment with like 4 other girls, and you just barely, to live in New York, it's not easy if you don't make a lot of money, and to enjoy New York, I should say. But we had a great time. I worked various jobs there. The job placement from FIT is wonderful. So I was working no problem. And then I sort of got burnt out of the city and decided to try moving west, to move to LA, because it's a big fashion garment center in LA. I went over and started working in LA. Did that for 2 years, and then all of a sudden I decided, I think I'm ready to go home because I want to start my own business, and I figured that would be one way where I could, starting your own business is a gamble, but I figured my family's there, so I know I won't starve, and I know I'll always have a roof over my head, so that's what I did.
Wow. And when did you come to Hawaii?
I moved back in, was it 84 or 85?
And that's when you started Anne Namba Designs?
No, I actually worked in the industry here first, because I thought, I don't know how the industry works in Hawaii. I don't know anything. So I took a job with a local manufacturer just to see the ropes, see how people work, make some connections, and which was a really smart move because it was so different from the mainland. Very, very different. Just the pace, how you do business. So I worked here first for a year and then started out of my parents' extra bedroom.
Really?
Yeah.
What a success story
Yeah.
it's been. Because now your products are all over the world.
Yeah.
In Norway or Europe and,
Yeah.
and all over the place. That's fabulous. For those of you who I mentor, because you're all supposed to be watching this show, I hope you're watching this show, what Anne is talking about is exactly what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where you have to pay your dues and you have to be willing to put in the work effort, not thinking that you know everything, that you have to do whatever it takes to make sure that you can get around the bases, first base, second base, and third base. Let's continue, Anne. Let's talk a little bit about why you decided to make stuff that you guys are wearing and I'm wearing. Why this type of design?
Well, initially when I wanted to start my own business, I thought, well, I want to do sort of contemporary wear that's sort of kind of beachy, but resorty, but modern. And then I realized that that is all the kind of looks coming out of California, and I could no way compete with that, because you as an individual cannot compete with a large company. I figured the only thing that I can do is something that they cannot do, which is a hands-on, one-on-one type of manufacturing. So that's when I went into working with kimono, because I love anything out of Japan. I love. And I was able to get some kimono and obi from an aunt of mine, which I love the fabrics. And I said, now I can make one-of-a-kind pieces with these things, which is not something that a large manufacturer is set up to do. So that's how I started. The company that I had worked for, one of the family members actually had his own company where he has models and he produced fashion shows. So he put me in one of his fashion shows. And I that's the connections part, and I created 9 ensembles, and they all sold. I was so thrilled, and that was a start. So I worked out, and I decided, and initially I thought, because I love to travel, I thought, I'm going to travel the world, I'm going to get exotic fabrics, and every year it's going to be the Indian collection, the African collection, the Chinese collection, and so forth. But what I realized is that in order to really get into knowing a product well and to create a branding or an image, you got to stick with it. And it took me such a long time, number one, to adapt all of my patterns into fitting into a kimono, into an obi, all the limitations of working with a certain type of fabrication, getting your resources, getting the manufacturing down, and then people know me for a certain look, that they don't want to say, oh, what is she doing this year, Mexico, so you have to sort of stick and build up your image. So I started with the Japanese fabric, and that stuck. And then from there, I branched out later in 95, about 10 years later, I started doing prints, which is like what we are all wearing, because I had more people saying, I love this, do you have it in my size? I'm like, no, it's a one of a kind. So I thought, well, if I create my own fabric, then I can cut multiples of it. I can cut it in different sizes, and I can sell it to the retail stores. So that's took my business to yet another
So
level.
you went to the next level.
Yep.
And when you do a fabric like I'm wearing, this kind of a fabric, you do the design in-house here, or do you
Yeah.
go outside to do
No.
it?
Actually, I use my nephew, Kamea. He does all
Right.
the artwork for me.
I know
So I'll
him.
discuss with him what I want, designs. I'll look at different things that, I'm like, oh, I really have the need. Like the last one we did, I said I have this real feeling that I want to do something really bright and colorful and floral. And I just see the colors purple, and I see an ombre going down to like a turquoise color, and a lot of flowers, just really, really pretty. And so then we'll sit together, and he'll start pulling different things down and putting it together, and I'll be yes, no, and then, he said, I think this looks better this way, and so forth. And voila.
And you end up with a design.
Yep.
Wow. So for the design phase, I mean, obviously you have a client base here in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
What about outside, all over the U.S. and Europe? What do they say when they see something like this with multicolors or beautiful prints like you guys are wearing?
Well, actually, I have quite a following all over the mainland. So I do have. That's why I travel so much, because I'm doing shows all over the mainland. So I will usually go to San Francisco twice a year, New York twice a year, Washington, D.C. I was going to Boston, Chicago, L.A., Seattle, Portland.
Well,
Yeah.
and people buy
Yep.
that's wonderful.
It's taken a while to build up the business, and you experiment with different ways of doing it, but it's good now. So like, I'm leaving on Thursday for San Francisco. We basically send out notices, I'm coming to town, and they show up.
That's fantastic. We've teased our audience enough. We've got to show them some of the designs. Can we?
Sure.
So, Ian, if you could pull, here's the first one. Tell us about what we're looking at.
This is a one-of-a-kind piece. I still continue to do that one-of-a-kind thing, and that's where I use obi and kimono. I'll mix it in. So this one here is an obi coat, and it's actually mixed in with leather. So I wanted to work with leather, so I found a leather factory, and so this coat is created from leather and the original obi. So it is a one-of-a-kind piece.
Beautiful.
This one is, again, a combination using a kimono, which is using a special type of kimono called shibori, which is Japanese tie-dye. So that was the coat. It's over a bustier, which I am famous for, because every woman should own one, including your wife.
Does she?
Yeah, she
Does
needs
you have
one.
one? Yeah.
She needs one. And then
Okay.
a skirt with appliques of leather on it. Let's see, again, more with this was another jacket, very fitted, more of a Chinese influence on that design,
Yeah.
and that has the leather and the obi.
Who's the model?
That is my daughter.
I know. I thought that was a great lead-in. That's beautiful.
And then this is a print, which is again, I'll come up with about 5 prints a year, and do a whole collection that I can wholesale out.
Wow. Oh, look at that one.
More prints. And the photo shoot was all taken in front of all the powwow murals.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to talk about that afterwards. Well, that is amazing. Now, we have to talk a little bit about what happened when we went to New York. You remember?
Oh, that was so much fun.
Sue and I and my daughter, who was in the makeup business at the time, you invited her to come to the Baryshnikov. Well, what was it? Tell us what that was all about.
Well, what happened was Mikhail Baryshnikov was in town to perform and came into my store, and I met him. I was thrilled because he's like this, icon, and loved my stuff. And so we started talking. His I think it was his executive director at the time, is from Hawaii. And so, we started talking different fundraisers and things like that. And he said, why don't we do one? And I was like, yeah, sure, when? And so we did, I was going up that following fall, so we met just to go over things. I was able to go to his center, meet with him and everything else, and that's when we started planning out this little fundraiser to do, and it was phenomenal because we used all of his dancers as models, including his wife,
Right.
and he even modeled, and it was great. It was wonderful, and Roxie, who did ballet for 14 years of your life, was able to meet him. So that was something pretty special as Alana got to meet him.
Of course, we got to meet him too.
Yeah.
I mean, we were absolutely shocked because Baryshnikov, in all of our minds, obviously, is one of the world's leading ballet dancers. And here walks this guy in a pork pie hat. And he's short, very short.
Yeah.
And he comes up to say hello to us, and I thought he was a member of the staff or something. I didn't realize that was him. I was actually taken aback. Or as Sue said, for the first time she saw me not saying anything. I didn't have words for that moment. But wait, there's more, because you've also done productions or work for productions outside of the U.S.
Yeah. Well, I love to do costumes, so I did dabble in it actually when I lived in New York. But then went in a different direction. The costume world is very, very difficult, especially in New York. It's a lot of unions and just very difficult to get work. And so that's why I went into fashion instead. But I've always loved costumes, so I've always subjected my children to Halloween costumes, and that's why I do theme
Really,
parties.
Roxie? You had to wear all that stuff? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I do a lot of theme parties because I love costumes. And then when she started dancing ballet, the artistic director cast her as the golden bird in the Chinese scene, and sort of handed
Nutcracker.
of the Nutcracker, and she handed me the costume, which was the original golden bird costume, and they had it in this rubbish bag. And she said, "Do you think you could, spruce it up or anything?" And I just looked at it. I closed it and like garbage. So that's what started the whole costume thing. Is I started creating costumes for the entire Nutcracker over the years. I slowly did it, and then from there, I was asked by Hawaii Opera Theater would I think about doing costumes for Madame Butterfly, and so I was like thrilled. Sure. So I've done Madame Butterfly. I did the Mikado. I did Pirates of Penzance, and the arts are struggling, so we're not talking big money here. It's more just because I really wanted to do it. But then what happened was I worked with Henry Aquina, who is the artistic director there. And he then came back to me and said, I've just got this this deal to work in Finland for the Savonlinna Opera Festival, which is the largest festival in all of Northern Europe.
In Finland?
In
Oh
Finland.
my gosh.
And he said, I'm to put together a team. Would you like to be in my team? I'm like, yeah. And that's when, everything paid off, because, when they sent me the contract, I was like, did they add an extra zero to that? And it was one of the best experiences I've had.
I think it's so indicative of your passion. It's obvious that your work is your passion.
Oh yeah.
And we talk a lot about that. We talk about how important it is that people love what they do. Because if you really do love what you do, it's not a job.
Right.
And if it's a passion, you're really getting paid for nothing.
Right.
Because you're doing something that you love. And it's so obvious with you.
Right.
Now we're going to get into a lot of your foundation work and a lot of the work that you do to help other organizations. And everybody wants to know about your sister. I mean, your daughter.
Yes, I know.
You do look alike. You're amazing. You're both amazing, and I know you're both going to CrossFit. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But you've always been amazing. It's Roxie that I'm thrilled to see how wonderful she has become as a human being. So we have to take a short break.
Okay.
And then after the break, Roxie, you are on stage. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Good. My name is Seymour Kazimirski. We're on Seymour's World at ThinkTech Hawaii.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back to Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm Seymour Kazimirski, and we are so privileged today to have Anne Namba and her daughter Roxie with us. In the last segment, we learned all about loving what you do, because Anne obviously loves what she does. And I've seen her fashions in so many cities in the world. I'm always amazed when sometimes you go into New York and then we see an Anne Namba dress or an Anne Namba top or something, and Sue always points it out to me. I guess you were in Bloomingdale's or some major stores over there, and it was just fabulous to see stuff from Hawaii, because Jay Fidel and I were talking about the need to diversify Hawaii's economy. And let's face it, fashion could be something that we could look at, because we definitely have a sense of fashion. May not be all aloha shirts and muumuus, but we do have one. Roxie, I'm so happy
Yes.
to have you on our show.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are a friend of my daughter's, and you guys went to school together way back when at Holy Nativity. And what happened after Holy Nativity?
Well, after Holy Nativity, I was accepted into Punahou School, where I graduated from in 2009. And then after that, I went on to Boston College, and I graduated in 2013.
And what did you graduate with?
I graduated with a major in history and a minor in French. So to my friends with a sense of humor, I say I graduated with my degree in poverty and with a concentration in living on my parents' couch.
Boy, I don't think you're the only one doing that. But we are going to talk about something that you are the only one to do. And the main reason I wanted you to come on our show is to help our young people open their minds. The show, by the way, the theme is open minds and facilitate conversations. That's what the show is all about. You have decided not to pursue a typical college career and go for your master's right away. You are going to...
On May 25th, I will be leaving Hawaii to go to Cameroon for 27 months as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Did you hear that? 27 months. No boys, no parties. You're going to work for the Peace Corps. That is fabulous.
No plumbing or electricity.
And
either.
no plumbing and no electricity. Why? What was the motivation behind it?
Well, I think that I had many reasons for applying and going into the Peace Corps. But one of them was that I was not lucky like my mom. I didn't have a passion from the age of 12. I don't really even know what I want to do 10 years later. And so, but I do know that I have a passion for community service. And that has been instilled in me since I was very, very young by my grandfather and then later by my parents. And so when I was looking at graduating, I didn't want to just get some job because it was, what all my friends were doing. I wanted to do something that I was passionate about and that would make me happy. And the Peace Corps just felt right. So I'm sort of killing two birds with one stone. I'm going to find my passion, and I'm also getting non-competitive federal eligibility for a federal service when I come back.
That is fantastic. Now, before you did that, though, I got a call from your mom, and then consequently I spoke to you, because I have a program called You're in Charge, which is helping foster kids, and you were looking to volunteer. Now, you didn't come to our volunteer organization, but you did something else. Tell us about it.
So I volunteered with a number of organizations, including a Head Start program in Palolo Valley, because the Peace Corps asks that we, as volunteers, accrue a certain number of hours teaching or helping in sort of educational programs. And so, I volunteered, and even my senior thesis coming out of Punahou School was involved. I was involved with this Head Start program at Palolo Valley, where I collected cans for a few months, turned them in with the High Five program, and then bought books to furnish 3 classrooms.
Wow. And then there was another major job that you worked with, right?
Yes, so 2 weeks after graduation, I started work as a pre-sentence assistant at the U.S. Probation Office here in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Okay, and what was that like?
It was very interesting. So I never thought of myself as having an interest in criminal justice or the judicial system, but it was made very clear to me by my father that I was not going to just wait around for my Peace Corps assignment. I was going to get a job. So we found out about the job through friends of friends, and I applied and interviewed, and shortly thereafter I started work. It was interesting in that it was my first real job. So I would have to get up at 5:30 and be in the office by 7:30, and I couldn't leave until 4:30. And the whole day I was sitting in a windowless office, staring at a computer screen, cranking out reports after report after report and criminal histories and doing all sorts of very menial and tedious tasks.
And what did you learn from it?
Well, I learned that if you sit in a windowless office day after day, you will lose your tan. On top of that, I also learned that, well, my critical thinking and writing ability definitely improved while I was there. But I also learned that it's important for young people, especially in my generation, to pay your dues. And that job was one of the best things that's actually ever happened to me, because I learned from my coworkers about what it is to give back to the community, because though probation might have a reputation of being, the people who enforce the law, a lot of line officers are actually social workers who really just want the best for our clients. And so it was really inspiring to see people work day after day. Some of them work 80 to 100 hours a week, and really their only goal is the rehabilitation of their clients.
And do you feel that our justice system, from your point of view, from what you saw, is fair?
I think that the people that I worked with did their utmost to make sure that the sentences that were, I was in the pre-sentence unit. So one of the jobs of the pre-sentence unit is to present a sentencing recommendation to the federal judge, who can then go within this, who can then go along with the recommendation or who can go outside of it. And I have to say that the people in my office I thought were incredibly fair and did a fantastic job of always making sure that the sentencing recommendation fit the crime and was fair.
I find what you did at this job is something probably 99% of our viewers don't know anything about. That there is a pre-sentencing hearing, or you had to prepare something for the pre-sentence. I think that's amazing, and I think it's also credit to your dad for realizing how important it is for you to work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you may be just a pretty face, but you are not. You are much smarter than that. That's
well, thank
wonderful.
you. And to be fair, I didn't know that there was a pre-sentence unit until about a week before I started the job.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I had to learn on the fly.
I actually tried to start something in the prison system, because I always felt that programs needed to be started for young people who are getting into trouble very early. And I wanted to start a program here in Hawaii, but unfortunately too many regulations didn't let it happen, where we would take kids, high school kids, who had one conviction, and send them into prison for a day with the hard group, basically. Mm-hmm. And it was called Scared Straight. I don't know if you're familiar with the program on the mainland, but we couldn't get it done here in Hawaii. And I felt that was an important contribution to make some kids maybe change their mind from going down the wrong path because of the consequence, which we don't show them. And I tried, it didn't work, but I admire you for doing what you did and doing a good job of it. Now tell us a little bit about the Peace Corps job. Can I call it a job? I know it's a volunteer.
We are volunteers, so
Yeah.
we aren't paid a salary, we're given a stipend, which will cover our living expenses and day-to-day expenses. So I'm going as a youth and development volunteer. So my job, well, first of all, I'll be in country for 3 months doing training. So that'll be language training, safety training. I'll be given additional vaccinations, so I'll probably be a little loopy when I arrive. And then after our 3 months of training, we're assigned a post in country, which is where we'll spend the remainder of our 2 years.
Do you know where that is in Cameroon?
Not yet. So we're not assigned until we complete our training.
And you're not afraid? I think that if Alana told Sue that she was going to Cameroon and Nigeria is right next door, where they have already kidnapped 200 or 300, we don't really know what the right complete number is, I would be a little frightened. And you're not?
No, I did go through. That, but I think I've raised her where she's got a good head on her shoulders, and she knows not to take stupid risks and lean into the punch or anything. So I think you gotta let them go, and you gotta let them and you just got to hope you did a good job.
Yeah, yeah. And you are you worried at all about going?
You know, I'm a little worried I'll come back with dreadlocks, but but for the most part, I'm just really excited. I know that the Peace Corps will take care of us, and the safety and security of the volunteers is their #1 priority. So I'm not nervous about any of that.
So do you know what the job is going to be? What does it entail?
Well, I will definitely be working with children, but youth and development is a very flexible it's a very flexible
Like a
position.
catchphrase?
Right, so it can be really anything, and I have talked to several youth and development volunteers who have done anything from create after-school programs for girls to work in orphanages to even teaching art classes. So I think that, I mean, I'm just excited because it's open-ended and I'm looking at it as an adventure, and you know, they can just throw me in and I'll do my best. Why not?
Well, for all the kids that I work with, I just want you to know that Roxie's 22 years old, and at 22 years old, she sounds like she's 30 years old. You are just amazing, Roxie. You've done a fabulous job of thinking through what you want your life to be. But what's after the Peace Corps? You know me, I'm always thinking 5 years ahead. What's after the Peace Corps?
So after I complete my Peace Corps service, I'm thinking I would love to stay on the continent for a few months and travel, although I don't know if my mom would agree to that.
She might come with you, who knows?
Yeah, you never know. And but for a year after I complete my service, I'll have non-competitive eligibility for federal service. So within a year, if I apply for a federal job, I will have an advantage. Or the Peace Corps has several partner universities that encourage Peace Corps volunteers to attend certain programs that have to do with our service, and the Peace Corps will also help to pay for those. So it really, I understand and I know that the Peace Corps is a very life-changing experience, so I'm going in with an open mind, and hopefully after about a year I can reassess my options.
Wow. I'd like you to show us some of the pictures of Cameroon, because I'm almost positive 95, 96, maybe even 99% of the people that are watching this show have never been to Cameroon. So you've already looked it up and you know what you're going to, right?
Well, like I said, I don't know which region I'll be posted to, but I have spent copious time on the internet just looking at pictures and reading blogs and doing as much research as I can before I go.
Okay, can you show us a couple of these photos that you have?
Sure. So this is the beach. So for those of you who don't know where Cameroon is, it's on the west coast. It borders Nigeria, and it has a beautiful, beautiful beach or coast.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the highlands of Cameroon. I'd love to go there. I mean, I would love to go all over.
And the highlands of Cameroon are north of the, because it borders Nigeria to the south, right?
No, to the north.
To the north, okay, so that's closer to Nigeria then. Uh-oh, okay. Mom, let's keep her south. Go ahead, what's this one?
I'm not really, sure what this one is. It just was a really nice picture on the Peace Corps website, and I thought, oh, I'll throw that in, why not?
All right, cool. Oh, wow.
These are some of their famous falls.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And then this is Yaoundé, the capital, where I'll be for a few days.
So you'll be there, that's where they start you off, basically. You get acclimatized.
Actually, so I'm going with a training class, and I'll meet the rest of the volunteers in my class when I go to Philadelphia on the 25th. And then from Philadelphia, we all fly to Cameroon together, and then we'll be in Yaoundé for a few days, and then we actually go to Iboloa, which is going to be our training site.
For those people in our audience who are thinking about it and saying, wow, doesn't this sound like a fantastic idea? Could you give us the base qualifications of what it took to get into the Peace Corps?
The Peace Corps, it has, well, I would recommend that anybody who's interested do research for themselves, because I really only know about what I'm interested in. But the Peace Corps has several different tasks, including they have health volunteers, agricultural volunteers, community development, youth, and the largest program that they have is education-based. So they're looking for highly motivated individuals who are willing to go give 2 years of their life in service, who would fit some of their qualifications from within the different cones of service, I guess.
And so, do they just take anybody who applies, or is there a standard that you have to meet?
Well, they took me, so no, just kidding. I believe there are standards, and they do look at, for recent college graduates, they do ask for your transcript, and we are required to write essays and submit 3 recommendations. But I think it really, the application process is very long, and I think it's because they really like to examine each candidate individually, and they do a very good job of screening, who would be successful and who wouldn't.
And you are the only one from Hawaii going on this one, right?
I'm the only volunteer in this training class from Hawaii, yes. But I've met 2 who are going to the Philippines and 1 who's going to China later on this year.
Wow, fabulous. Well, I think you're in for a wonderful ride. I think it's going to be terrific. Now let's get to the hard questions. Mom, why isn't she working for you?
She doesn't like what I do.
I do, honestly, I do like being in the store. I like helping, and sometimes when Mom is working on a production, I'll help with the costumes, and I'll help out during her annual sale, which just finished. But ultimately, I'm not passionate about fashion, and so I would rather do something I'm passionate about.
So really, your grandfather had that much of an influence on you? Because that's obvious. You mentioned that right at the beginning, that your grandfather somehow got you into this idea of community service.
He was very passionate about community service. He was a professor at the University of Hawaii, and he was always engaged in service of some kind. And ever since I was little, he was the one who would pick me up from school, from Holy Nativity, and take me to ballet, or he was the one hanging out with me when my parents were working, and I grew to really adore him and love him, and I really looked up to him. So, and he always said, you have to give back to your community, otherwise it'll stop giving to you.
That's very good. Well, Anne, what do you say to your daughter after all this? You must be so proud of her.
I'm very proud. Very proud
That
of my
is
daughter.
just terrific. I remember you when you were small. You were a little bit of a maverick, I remember, when you were small.
But she did not run away with Alana.
No. Yeah, I guess we have to tell that story now. Alana has said, don't you dare, but since you opened the door, I will. Alana was 6 or 7 years old, and you were in the classroom with her, I believe, at the time. Mm-hmm. And another girl, who will remain nameless because I don't have her permission, at 6 or 7 years old, they decided to run away from school. And they left Holy Nativity School and walked. They were going to Kahala Mall or to this other person's house, and they decided that it was okay to do it until I guess a Holy Nativity mom saw them about a mile away, and the police came, and it was quite a scene. So you didn't go with them?
No, I was one of their good friends at the time,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like the snitch, so I don't really. I hate this story as well. I told our teacher that the plan, and they didn't believe me. So.
Really? Oh, that's so cool that you at least tried to help them out in the only way that you knew how. Right?
They just, well, like you said, I was a maverick, so they kind of looked at me and was like, oh, it's just another Roxie story.
Wow, that is so cool, though. Those were good times at Holy Nativity. They were very good times. Mm-hmm. Wonderful little school. Absolutely wonderful little school. Something in the valley. I can't remember the name of the school. There was like a saying, the little school in the valley, or something like that.
I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it was a terrific time. We've got to take a small break, and then we're going to come back and talk about all the wonderful work that you do for other organizations like Powwow and things like that. And Roxie, you're welcome to join in on anything that you want to talk about. So we'll be back with the mother and daughter in a moment. My name is Seymour Kazimirski. We're at Seymour's World. Thank you.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us.
Okay,
join
it's
us.
every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every
Energy
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the state of clean energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Energy
We'll see you
Wednesday.
there.
Welcome back to Seymour's World. I'm Seymour Kazimirski at ThinkTech Hawaii. You'll notice this beautiful shirt I'm wearing. It is from Anne Namba Designs, who during the break Anne decided that I cannot get a commission for selling shirts. So I am out of luck and out of a job. Here I thought I could be on the street and actually peddling Anne Namba shirts. That's like the old days when I used to peddle stuff, when I used to have to work on the street, which was great. Well, we've had such a wonderful time with you guys, all talking about your business and Roxie, where you're going. Let's talk about some of the work that you do, Anne, outside of Anne Namba Designs. Powwow, of course, comes to mind. Tell us about Powwow.
Powwow is a group of young artists, and they get together every year, and they're the ones that have been painting all the murals within Kaka'ako, all the walls out there. And one of the lead directors is my very talented nephew, Kamea, who does all the artwork for my prints. And so, of course, Auntie has to help. So I've been doing fundraisers for them. But I've also done a lot of fundraisers for the ballet when she was involved, and I do it for the opera. I do I do a lot.
But
just
you do it because you love it, Anne. I mean, you
well,
obviously.
it's and
it's not just for business.
No. I mean, it's I just did I did a fundraiser for the Hawaiian Humane Society and brought home my new baby, because after this one leaves, I need a new one. So
Yes.
She has a child-sized hole in her heart in which she is shoving a puppy.
Well,
you know what? She will love the puppy, not as much as she loves you, but this close. It'll be that close.
So I do a lot of work there, and then
By
also
work, do you provide design or do you provide business assistance?
what I do, well, both. Like I'll do a lot of fundraisers where I'll actually do all the event planning, the soliciting, do the event itself, or the other thing that I'll do is fashion shows to raise money for the organization.
Right.
And so I do a lot of those because that's just something that I can do very easily.
I remember Alana did some makeup for you
Yes.
for some of those fashion shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I
So you
support
get
all-
everybody to contribute to help out so that the
Yes.
money goes towards the.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and
Wonderful.
so and even on the mainland, a lot of the shows that I do up there are to benefit different organizations up there. So I'm actually getting awarded. I'm getting a big honor in
Wow.
LA from the Japanese Community and Cultural Center up there
That's
for all my
fabulous.
work up there too. So
Oh, that is
yeah.
terrific. I have a great story. In one of our programs, the You're in Charge program with the foster kids, we had a young man who was about 25 years old, and part of our work is talking about structure and discipline and passion and support. And he was extremely reticent about talking about his passion. And where he has to climb the ladder at one stage of our process, and he's on his passion ladder, and he's got to step up on the ladder and talk about his passion. And it was like pulling teeth, and he finally put his head down, and he didn't want anybody to hear. And I said, "Okay, what is your passion?" And he said, "I like designing dresses." And he was so embarrassed by that because he's a big Hawaiian guy, And I said, "So?" And I immediately thought of you and I called you. And I said, "Okay, if you think that your designs are that good, let's make an appointment and I'll see if I can get you a dress designer appointment." You said, "Of course, you could see him." And this young fella, I said his homework for the next week was to, because everybody has homework in this program I have, to bring in 5 designs of the dresses that he has drawn. Well, he came with a stack of 100. He's been designing dresses since he was 12 years old. And this guy came in, and the whole support team, we have a support team of other foster kids, and one of them said, "Do you have a pair of pants for the interview? How about shoes, or do you only have slippers?" And somebody said, "Do you have to write up a resume? Do you know what that is?" He says, "I'm not quite sure what that is." And everybody helped him. But thanks to you, you were the guiding light. He wanted to get to meet Anne Namba. He thought that if he could get to meet Anne Namba, that would help him in getting a future in design. So in some ways, you don't even know how much you have. And that's a wonderful story of how important it is to be open for that kind of work, which is great. What about Roxie? Tell me about. I mean, we've only heard good things about you. There's got to be something in the closet that we should hear about. A good experience, a bad experience. What's going on?
Well, I have to say the last year was very trying for me. So I came home from college, and I hadn't yet received my Peace Corps assignment, and I didn't know when I would be leaving. And I got my job at probation, which I loved, really. I loved the people I was working with, and I thought that the work was very meaningful. But it wasn't really what I was passionate about. And I was living at home, and I didn't have a car. So in many senses, I had less freedoms than I did when I was 16. And everywhere I went, I had to bum rides off my 18-year-old brother. So, you know, it was definitely a struggle for me. But I think that the year was ultimately, even though I fought with my parents a lot and I had a really rough time, I think it was really great because I learned a lot about myself and what makes me happy and what I'm passionate about. And I've grown a lot in the last year.
So the negative experience turned into a positive experience. You were able to take something that really was not fun at the time and still see a light at the end of the tunnel and turn it into a big, strong beam of light. That's fabulous. That's
Well,
great.
I do really believe everything happens for a reason, and so you know, you just have to find the reason. And I think that my personal growth was the reason that I had such a hard time.
And what about your best experience?
I've been very lucky. My parents have given me a really wonderful childhood and life, and so I have so many wonderful experiences abroad and here. But I have to say that one of my best experiences was when I went abroad to Perth, Western Australia, and I road tripped with 9 other people all the way up and down the coast of Australia, and we were too cheap to pay for what's it called?
Lodging.
For lodging, so we would, you know, camp on the side of the road in the outback, and we didn't shower for 10 days, and oh yeah, it was great. It was very liberating because it made me realize that I'm more self-sufficient than I realize, or that I know, and it also it taught me that it's okay to be alone. I think a lot of people, especially in my generation, are very nervous about being alone and traveling by themselves, but once you open yourself up, or at least once I opened myself up to being alone and traveling, which I subsequently did throughout Europe, it just opens the world for so many neat experiences. And so I think that was a really great, one of my best experiences.
Wow. Remember, she's only 22. The next president of the United States is probably sitting next to us. You'll say you saw her first on Seymour's World. Anne, how about you? You've had some wonderful experiences.
I've had so many wonderful experiences, and I actually, it's just all of it. I'm living the dream, I have to say. And it's just, you know, as they say, success is a journey. It's not a destination. So I think my best is still every day. It's just,
that is just wonderful. I mean, we use the word blessed maybe a little too often, but I really feel we are blessed. We have good health. That's number one. My age, that becomes a critical issue. But it's being able to do what you love to do. And I was talking to somebody the other day who said, why are you doing all this stuff, you know, the TV shows and the foster kids and the musicians thing? And I have to say, I really love doing it. Nobody pays me for it, but it's something that you do when you have a passion about life, and all of a sudden you realize you're doing something for other people, and you're giving. We've had people on the show that have created businesses because they've been on the show and they've had contacts, you know, that work. We did a show from Thailand about black rice, and now black rice, the FDA just accepted black rice. So things happen, and if you can be a part of it, it's a wonderful way to leave a legacy. Not just that you made money or that you did something, doing something for other people. We have run out of time, I'm so sorry to say, but I do want to say thank you to both of you. You've been wonderful guests and absolute inspiration from the mother to the daughter. I did not say sisters this time, but from the mother to the daughter. You're both inspirational for young people and for business people. So I thank you very much for joining me today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure, believe me. I want to say thank you to our audience for watching. I have a wonderful show planned next week, and there may be an animal involved in our show next week. We'll see you next Tuesday. This is Seymour Kazimirski from Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii.